Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Aunia Asia, and today our group will present about our book review for subject Interfaith Dialogue. The title of the book is Exploring Religious Pluralism, Christian and Muslim Responses. This book was written by Haslina Ibrahim. The detail of the book, it was published under Institute of Strategic Studies, Islamabad, ISSI, publication at Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia in May 2016. This book contains 191 pages, including bibliography and index. The book was divided into 8 parts: Introduction, Chapter 1, Locating the Problem, and Introduction to the Philosophy of Religious Pluralism. Chapter 2, Christian Encounters with Religious Pluralism. Chapter 3, Muslim Encounters with Religious Pluralism. Chapter 4, A Critical Analysis of Religious Pluralism. Conclusion, Bibliography, and Index. In this book review, we will list out 10 important ideas from the book and give some comments or opinions on this book.
Religious pluralism defined. Religious pluralism in its simple meaning refers to the multiplicity of religions or diversity of religions. The fact that matters in the discussion of religious pluralism is not the quantity of religions, but primarily the diverse truth claims those religions exhibit. The roots of the philosophy of religious pluralism. The Second Vatican Council has become the turning point which led to an official declaration of the Catholic Church relating to non-Christian religions. Christianity was provoked to revise its exclusive doctrine, which was claimed to be a hindrance to the idea of pluralism in religion. It can also be presumed that the growing interest in the study of religion has stimulated the need for a pluralist approach. Another root of the philosophy could be perceived from the difficulties in interpreting and understanding religion. The point is that despite their achievement of frustration, the Christians were made to accept the existence of other religions and that Christianity is not the one and only religion that offers salvation to its adherents. It is at this point that such an attempt to interpret religion has in some way considered the plurality of religions. Social interpretation of religion and religious pluralism. He urged to Smith's distinction of faith and cumulative religious tradition in providing the basic foundation for his ideas of religious pluralism. His version of religious pluralism is primarily molded on the basis of religions perceived as cumulative tradition. These cumulative traditions are composed of a rich complex of inner and outer elements cohering in a distinctive living pattern which includes structure of belief, lifestyle, scripture and their interpretation, liturgies, cultic celebration, myth, music, poetry, architecture, literature, remember history and its heroes. In a nutshell, the philosophy of religious pluralism sanctions the social interpretation of religion in appreciation of religious plurality.
What is a Christian encounter with a religious pluralism? As for pluralism, a shift from exclusivism. In this sense, pluralism owed a great deal to inclusivism, which had prepared the way for a pluralist explanation of religion. Both celebrate the existence of plural religion, with the exception that inclusivism from a Christian perspective led to the salvation of other religions derived originally from Christianity, whereas pluralism believes that any religion is a valid path to salvation without having to be related to Christianity. The move from exclusivism to inclusivism, on the other hand, is thought to be a major event since it set the groundwork for the Christian pluralist view of other religions. In truth, inclusivism complies with the general definition of pluralism as long as it promotes religious diversity and rejects exclusivism. Just plurality in general is a relatively new philosophical concept. inclusivism opened the path for pluralism over exclusivism in the Roman Catholic Church. After centuries of exclusivism, rigorous absolutism, inclusiveness made a significant contribution to the acceptance of other religions. Next, proponent of religious pluralism, philosophical approaches. I will explain about faith and cumulative tradition. According to the book, Smith's understanding of religion and cumulative tradition is more relevant and accurate in reflecting all types of religious tradition, as well as more dependable in comprehending humanity's diverse religious life. Smith's awareness of the plurality, variety, and multiplicity of mankind's so-called religious life is aided by such a view. According to Smith, faith is defined as a person's inner religious experience or involvement, as well as the transcendent imposition on him. According to Smith, also, cumulative tradition is a human invention. It is adaptable and had a significant impact on the life of all religious men. It is speculated that Smith's contribution to the field of religious plurality rests in three truths by articulating his ideas and the concept of cumulative tradition. First, modernity disqualification of the notion of religion, followed by the denial of the exclusive spirit that comes with the concept of religion, and finally by recognizing the diversity of human religious life in the tradition of cumulative divergence represented.
My name is Siti Nurhanis binti Muhammad Fauzi, metric number 1201947. Okay, now I will continue about how Muslim encounters with religious pluralism. Okay, from the Ismail Raji Al-Faruqi, this is the concept of meta-religion from his perspective. Okay, firstly, Islamic meta-religion assumes that every religion is revealed by God, but it is well aware that once a revealed religion is intermingled and amalgamated with cultural and historical elements, it has the potential to transform itself. Second, it is assumed that revelation and prophecy are universal religious phenomena, that people were sent a messenger or prophet to teach them the lesson of religion. Third, Islamic meta-religion recognizes man's inclination to formulate and investigate religious truth because every human is born with the ability to know God and to distinguish between good and evil. Fourth, Islamic meta-religion sought to establish the Deen al-Fitrah, the primordial truth underlying all religion, as well as critically examining and reject historical elements and religious falsification. 5. Islamic meta-religion respects human reason by not contradicting revelation, by rather working in harmony with it. And lastly, Islamic meta-religion declares that man is born innocent, free, and thus responsible for his own actions. The idea is about the Fazlur Rahman perspective. Okay, from the concept of God, Fazlur Rahman established 3 points. To begin with, everything except God is dependent on God. Second, God is essentially the all-merciful God. And third, God and man's relationship is one of the serf and the servant. Then second is about the no compulsion in religion. Fazlur Rahman firmly supported the Quranic injunction against religious compulsion, writing, on the freedom of the profession of religion, the Quran has uniquely declared, let there be no compulsion in religion, as stated in the Surah Al-Baqarah. Third, about the prophecy as the universal common phenomenon of religion. So, it is explained that Prophet Muhammad was commanded to acknowledge and know all the previous prophets and books, although different messengers were sent to different peoples at different times. So, it is really important to recognize that their messages are universal and identical.
Okay, next we move to the part of proponents of religious pluralism, mystical approaches. Okay, here the author tells first about the transcendentalist claims on Muslim Sufis. Okay, here the author of these books explained that both pluralists and transcendentalists have repeatedly cited that Sheikh Muhyiddin Ibn Arabi and Maulana Jalaluddin Ar-Rumi, two prominent Muslim mystics, as offering fruitful ground for the reception of plural religions. Nonetheless, state the author more that Ibn Arabi and Maulana Jalaluddin Ar-Rumi credited with the richest forms of appreciation for other religions. Their invocations were frequently cited as evidence of their embrace of multiple religions. Subsequently, the authors expand about the thought of the people about the poems of Muhyiddin Ibn Arabi. Okay, here the author started with referring to one of Ibn Arabi's poem that quoted by Nas as imposing the pluralist account of religion. As you can see on the slide, the poems of Ibn Arabi here. In light of this poem, Nas asserted that Ibn Arabi was delivering a message of pluralism, as the latter affirmed that all divinely revealed roots lead to the same summit. Arabi's claim that God has a face in everything worshipped has the same implication. Furthermore, the author also states that the poem has even been quoted by Karen Armstrong, who see it as a new extreme of tolerance. Armstrong believes that God is a mystery and that no single religion can fully describe the divine mystery. Nonetheless, Armstrong claimed that only mystics are capable of laying the foundation for divine mysteries, since mystics are not dogmatic in their religious beliefs. Moreover, it is also interesting to note that certain scholars are opposed to such a diverse understanding. According to Luz Lopez Barra, Ibn Arabi's poetry refers to a deeper reality, the lofty stature of the mystic heart receptive of every shape, rather than a tolerant attitude toward numerous religions as other Islamologists suggest. Afterwards, the author stated the thought of people about Maulana Jalaluddin Arumi. The author stated that Maulana Jalaluddin Arumi, who has been a valuable scholar for both pluralist and transcendentalist perspectives. It is worth noting that Arumi was widely credited with spreading the message of religious tolerance and coexistence. In this sense, Franklin D. Lewis has made a significant contribution by offering a thorough examination of impact Rumi's on world religion. Meanwhile, as a religious philosopher, John Haig is known for regularly quoting a Rumi phrase, "The lights are different but the light is the same," to illustrate religious plurality. Karen Armstrong, a former Catholic nun who now writes Interfaith book, shared the transcendentalist viewpoint, believing that Ar-Rumi is a challenge to Muslims to discover the transcendent dimension in human life and to see past appearances to the hidden reality within. Other than that, the author also stated about Lewis that also revealed that Dag Hammarskjöld, the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize, used Rumi's phrase, "The lovers of God have no religion but God alone," in his work Markings as an image of tolerance. Furthermore, Turkish director Fehmi Gerceker has narrated Ar-Rumi's tolerance in a 30-minute video titled Tolerance, dedicated to Maulana Jalaluddin Ar-Rumi. Ar-Rumi is depicted in this video as one of the first proponents of interfaith dialogue and ecumenism, as well as an apostle of tolerance who preached acceptance and encouraged people to appreciate one another's faith, orientations, and religious goals.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Fatin Auni binti Shalahuddin. My metric number 1201904. What we learned in chapter 4, a critical analysis of religious pluralism, the call for a relationship of peace harmony among the world religions, is currently overshadowed by the growing tensions due to the Muslim and non-Muslim political situation. As the right hand offers peace, the left hand is offering a new version of Western imperialism by means of economic, technological, political, or cultural expansion under the cloak of ostensibly attractive and fascinating slogans of globalization, world peace and global reconciliatory policies, which in essence mean torment. In the previous chapter, the author has discussed some aspects of globalization and the way it pervades religious affairs. The author also has accentuated the point that globalization has increased the contact between religions and heightened the awareness of the diversity of exploring religious pluralism. Next, in this chapter also said Islam rejects exclusivism, as discussed by the Muslim exegetes, has brought a peculiar understanding. Based on this, the word Islam are being discussed by Al-Razi in his work Al-Tafsir Al-Kabir is categorized into three meanings. First, an indication of submission and obedience. Second, rendering to those who submit for peace and reverence. and sincerity in one's devotional acts to God. Lastly, up to this point, we have consistency, emphasize the positive outlook employed by the Quran towards the rich and plural phenomenon of religions.
Next is about research methodology. According to the American Heritage Dictionary of the English Language, methodology can be defined as the theoretical analysis of method appropriate to a field of study or the content of specific method and principle to a branch of knowledge. Whereas, according to the Collins English Dictionary, methodology is a system of method and principle used in a practical discipline. Based on the two definitions, the methodology of this study can be introduced as a tool or method for each research to start a study or research on the issue or method to be described in the article or any media that the research wants to share. This is because in everything that wants to be shared, there must be a technical or way in order to simplify all the tasks in producing a paper. In fact, it is a proof for the research that what is writing in the result of his paper is based on analysis of certain source. This shows that the research methodology is one of the ways to mix and through each of the information obtained according to the set rules. In research design, the method used in this research is theoretical and philosophical, which is qualitative in nature and relies heavily on the study and analysis of the text. As such, the source is dependent on printed material and some online websites. Meanwhile, to analyze the data, researchers have used critical and analytical methods. For data analysis, various books and interpretation are used to expose the argument that by in connection with the philosophy of religion pluralism. In addition, this paper discusses the rise of religion pluralism in Malaysia based on the perspective of the response of Muslims with the exploitation conducted by researchers on the narrative of religion pluralism in Malaysia to clarify both the meaning and historical background. This is because it can help researchers to analyze the objectives of their challenge to the Islamic faith in Malaysia and explain the response of Muslims to it. The finding of the study indicates that the acceptance of religion pluralism by Muslims is the result of confusion and misinterpretation of texts about the origin, context, and challenge brought by philosophy to religion, particularly Islam as the state religion.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Damia binti Nur Zawani. My metric number is 1201894. Based on the book Exploring the Religious Pluralism of Christian and Muslim Notions, we will provide a review of Chapter 1, Finding Problems and Introduction to the Philosophy of Religious Pluralism. We see the author as so critical in giving the meaning and definition of pluralism. Therefore, the author is concerned about the importance of understanding the basic principle of plurality and how it relates to the concept of religious pluralism. Given that religious plurality is the focus of this study, the next step is to understand the meaning of pluralism in the context of religion, as well as to identify significant arguments and assertions. The term religious pluralism refers to the existence of various religious or religious diversity. Yet, in the discussion of religious pluralism, what matters is not the number of beliefs, but the diversity of truth claims made by those religions. Next, the part of religious pluralism, exclusivism and inclusivism. The author interprets the comparison of religious pluralism with exclusivism and inclusivism. With that, we can distinguish what is exclusivism. Is a religion that is the absolute idea that there is only one true religion and all the others are wrong. Later, inclusivism claimed that there was only one true religion, but other religions contributed to part of the truth of pure religion. The author's description of religious pluralism is very interesting and suggests that all religions are correct in the sense that every religion makes a general reference to want security from various perspectives towards God. In addition, we examine the premise of religious pluralism section. Our view on the first premise of religious pluralism is that all major religious traditions should be respected for their sanctity. As a result, different theological traditions use different words to describe the ultimate reality, such as Allah in Islam and subsequent religions according to their respective understanding. Second, every religion has the same priority in conveying some form of redemption to human beings. The third premise of religious pluralism is that all religious traditions contain limited descriptions of the sacred nature. I'll comment in the section on social interpretation of religion and the religious pluralism that religion is described as a social institution, which is a way to communicate in conveying religious information with more effect. In Chapter 2, the encounter of Christianity with religious pluralism, the author presents the historical background of religious pluralism. Indeed, we can see a detailed description of religious plurality is first used in the study of religion, especially in religious philosophy and Western philosophy. As a result, this is the historical development of religious pluralism created according to Western history. Thus, Christianity and exclusivism are related to Western history. Christianity is the most dominant religion in managing the affairs of the country. The Church is the exclusive use of Christianity as a state ideology in addition to being used for religious purposes. In addition, we can see the development of Christianity through the age of exploration, colonization, and missionary. Interestingly, Christian missionaries spread through colonization. The ultimate goal is to convert individuals to Catholicism, which is the Christian faith. Colonial and Christian missionaries depended on each other. However, the efforts of Christian missionaries to perfect their religious teachings by preaching colonially. Next, the second content written based on this chapter is Supporters of Religious Pluralism, a philosophical approach. We argue that many philosophers are interested in studying the elements of religious pluralism. Among them, Wilfred Cantwell Smith, the first pluralist whose important opinion highlight the policy of pluralistic teaching tendencies are as important in laying the foundation for philosophy of religious pluralism. Thus, Wilfred Cantwell Smith is a religious pluralism account. Smith was concerned, first of all, that the world was approaching a new age of religious plurality and that the general understanding of religion at that time was no longer relevant. The next pluralist was John Hick, his philosophy of religious pluralism. We see John Hick faced with a problem in the soteriological character of religion, which assumes that every religion has a unique perception and interpretation of salvation. According to Hick, that many religious belief terms have imposed the concept of safety in a broad sense. The final content in the second chapter is Supporter of Religious Pluralism, a Mystic Approach. We look at the hypothesis based on the author writing. Indeed, the work of the study reveals that the philosophical argument of religious pluralism is in response to the theological teachings of certain religions, such as Christianity or Islam. In this section, the study attempts to show a different perspective on religious pluralism through a mystical approach. We characterize that mysticism is not concerned with theological and dogmatic ideas of religion. Finally, our view of symbolism and mysticism is that it is an interest in playing a spiritual role. This is because the spiritual nature is universal, which indeed appears in every religion. Spirituality practiced in Christianity and Islam are also involved mystical activities. So, our perception of the spiritual presence, mystical symbols are the ultimate expression in the form of pluralism.
My overall comments on this chapter is few modern Muslim academics have addressed the concerns directly and they are working to spread what they see as Islamic religious diversity without disputing their contribution, but in order to place their philosophical views on religious pluralism in the framework of this section. The notions of Ismail Raji al-Faruqi and Fazlur Rahman related to interreligious issues must coherently portray the pluralistic account of religion, despite the fact that neither discuss religious pluralism as a philosophy. It is thought that both articulations of interreligious relations may be attributed to their pluralistic account of faith. Ismail Raji al-Faruqi has explained about the concept of meta-religion, the primordial tradition, the Abrahamic tradition, and the common phenomenon of prophecy. Without a doubt, Ismail Raji al-Faruqi made significant contributions to the study of comparative religion. He was a proponent of meta-religion, a philosophy founded on the human universal reason and employing the notion of theological freedom. Unfortunately, following his death, the thesis was not abandoned due to Muslims' willingness to accept everything from the West. Even so, he was a pioneer in worldwide interfaith discourse, particularly in the West. He established some criteria for discourse, and once again, meta-religion theory was employed. Al-Faruqi displayed a successful life in dialogue throughout his life. For him, discussion is designed for religious understanding in order to rectify misperceptions about faith. Fazlur Rahman is a Muslim scholar who has always been passionate about the Quran and keen to speak with his ideas. Fazlur Rahman, a Quranic scholar, stated that the Quranic notion of God is functional, that God is required not for what he is or may be, but for what he accomplished. Following that, Fazlur Rahman claimed that the plural phenomena is a test for humans in order to verify that man can compete in kindness. In addition, Fazlur Rahman was a firm believer in Islam as a theoretical and practical tolerance faith. He also chastised Judaism and Christianity for their exclusivist claims and claims to God's direction. He contended vehemently that guiding is the job of God and decent people, and that no society can claim to be exclusively directed and elected. In Chapter 4, we learn about a critical examination of religious plurality. To begin, it is a sad truth that the West's two-faced approach promotes the desire for peace and religious tolerance. Following that, Islam has no authority to violate any laws since Islam is a religion of peace. Fighting is only allowed when the peace is disturbed. Furthermore, for Wilfred Candler-Smith, religious diversity centered on his rejection of the Western understanding of religion itself. The rejection is founded on the belief that the Western notion of religion is to blame the religion's restricted attitude, while in Hicks' perspective, the many gods depicted in various faiths are essentially Wittgenstein familial resemblances. Following that, plurality is positively stated as proof of Allah's existence and His almightiness in creating such richness and diversity of distinct entities. All of humanity was born from a single pair of parents, the Prophet Adam and his wife Eve. The presence of many races and people is intended to foster global awareness and recognition of one another. The epistemic dilemma of religious plurality is stressed at this point. The fact that Western religious plurality begins with skepticism, which is problematic for the notion of Tawhid in Islam.
In conclusion, religious pluralism refers to the acknowledgement of existence of plural religions. It implicates the idea that every religion is an equally valid way of salvation, and in making a common reference to a transcendent God. This implies not only an appreciation of the coexistence of religions, but also sanction the plural truth claims of the absolute exhibited by the many religions. In brief, religious pluralism facilitated the idea of many religions and many absolute truths. Even though the concept of religious pluralism in its Western Christian paradigm is incompatible with the principle of Tawhid, but the call for peace and religious cooperation should not fall on deaf ears. Rather, this is a challenge for Muslims to ground their own scheme in anticipating the prevailing challenge of pluralism. In view of this, we suggest that the Muslims need to begin from a positive ground rather than perceiving pluralism a conflicting phenomenon as the Western Christian has understood it.